That morning, the sun had just risen from behind the trees, casting a soft light over the vast reserve. The fresh air smelled of earth and wet grass, but the silence was broken by the clear but painful cry of a child. Little Ben, no more than 3 years old, sat huddled on the dirt road, his eyes red and his face swollen from crying. His oversized green jacket covered his small body, but it could not protect him from the loneliness and fear that surrounded him. In the distance, Leo, the largest and most powerful lion in the reserve, was lounging in the shade of a tree, enjoying the gentle morning breeze. But then a strange sound caught his attention. It was not the sound of antelopes or the rustling of leaves. It was the sound of weakness, the muffled cry of a small creature. Leo raised his head, his large ears perked up, and his sharp eyes focused on the strange sound. The scent wafting on the wind made him pause. It was a scent, unlike any other animal he had ever encountered. A little strange, a little familiar, like a vague memory from the past. Leo stood up and stretched, his muscles rippling under his shiny golden fur. He walked toward the sound, his steps graceful and alert. As he got closer, he saw the boy sitting on the dirt road, so small and vulnerable that it seemed the world could swallow him up. Leo circled the boy, keeping his distance, but not taking his eyes off him. Ben's persistent crying confused the lion. A low growl escaped Leo's throat, not to threaten, but to test the boy's reaction. Ben, startled, raised his head, his tear-filled eyes staring at the great lion. Leo could easily have seen the boy as a threat or a weak prey, but something held him back. In Ben's red, swollen eyes, Leo seemed to see a fragment of his memory, a tiny lion cub huddled next to its mother's lifeless body, left unprotected in the wild. A sudden noise behind the boy made Leo roar. His eyes flashed with alarm and ferocity. Ben stopped, looking at Leo in alarm, but then he realized that the gaze wasn't directed at him. Leo wasn't roaring at the boy. He was looking behind him. Before Ben could turn, Leo charged, his large body towering over him like a storm. A loud crash rang out as Leo came face to face with another lion. The strange lion approached Ben, perhaps hungry or drawn by the boy's cries. But Leo was already there, between him and the child, ready to fight. Howard was driving down the dirt road, unaware of the incredible scene he was about to witness. As he turned the corner, he saw two lions fighting. To him, this was not unusual. But when he noticed a young boy, just a few feet away from the lions, his heart stopped. Howard couldn't understand how the child had gotten into the sanctuary, but he knew the boy was in danger. He stepped on the gas, and the jeep sped toward the boy at high speed. The roars of the two lions echoed throughout the sanctuary. Leo, with his claws and overwhelming strength, quickly overwhelmed his opponent, forcing him to retreat. As the other lion limped away into the bushes, Leo returned and lay down beside Ben. The boy didn't understand what had just happened, but in Leo's eyes, there was no longer any threat. It lay there, silently, forming a protective shield around the boy, its sharp eyes scanning the area to make sure there was no danger. The quiet morning once again fell upon the sanctuary, but this time, the silence was no longer frightening. Under the rising sun, a lion and a boy, two completely different creatures, had found a strange connection in each other, as if fate had destined them to meet. Leo had not always been the majestic and powerful lion he was now. Years ago, when Howard first found him, Leo was just a small, frail lion cub, shivering beside his dead mother. a sight that broke the young ranger's heart. That day, the sun was shining brightly on the reserve, and Howard was patrolling the wild fields when he saw an unforgettable sight. Amidst the sparse bushes lay a lioness, her body covered in wounds from poachers. Next to her, a young lion cub was huddled, trying to find the last bit of warmth from his mother. Leo's eyes were filled with more than tears, but also fear and confusion. Howard knelt beside Leo, gently reaching out his hand. "It's okay, little one, I'll take care of you," he whispered, a promise to the small, trembling creature before him. And that was the beginning of a journey that would last for years, a journey of love, sacrifice, and trust. The early days were not easy. Leo was too young to survive on his own. Howard had to stay up all night, making formula and feeding Leo from a bottle every few hours, just like a newborn baby. There were times when Leo would whimper in the night, as if calling for his mother, and Howard would hold him and comfort him until he calmed down. But Howard knew that for Leo to have a real chance of survival, he could not depend on him forever. When Leo was a little older, Howard had to make a difficult decision: to integrate Leo into a pride of lions in the reserve. He knew that this was the only way Leo would learn to live like a real lion. After many nights of thinking, Howard placed Leo in the care of a lioness in the pride, a mother who had raised many other lion cubs. The sight of Leo timidly walking towards the pride made Howard feel his heart clench. He feared that he would be rejected or attacked. But then, something miraculous happened. The lioness slowly approached Leo, sniffed his fur, and then let Leo lie down next to her. Howard couldn't help but cry when he saw that scene. Under the guidance of the lions, Leo grew up strong and learned how to hunt, defend himself, and defend his territory. However, Leo never forgot the person who saved his life. Every time Howard appeared at the reserve, Leo would look at him from afar, his eyes silently thanking him. To Howard, Leo was more than just a lion. He was a living testament to the power of love and salvation. Every time he saw Leo running freely in the fields, he saw the profound meaning of the sacrifice he had made for him. Leo's journey was not only a lion's journey to maturity, but also a symbol of the magical bond between humans and nature, a bond based on compassion, trust, and unconditional love. Howard cautiously turned off the Jeep and slowly opened the door. Of all the rangers in the reserve, he was the only one Leo truly trusted. Over the years, the lion seemed to remember his savior, and that made him treat him differently than the others. Howard stepped out of the safety of the car, keeping his eyes fixed on Leo. The giant lion studied him, as if assessing his trust. After a long moment, with a long stretch, Leo stood up and walked slowly away from the boy. Howard breathed a sigh of relief. He had passed Leo's test. Howard carried little Ben into the sanctuary office, his eyes still fixed on the little boy curled up in his arms. Although Ben had stopped crying, his innocent eyes were still filled with confusion, as if trying to understand what was happening around him. Howard kept wondering, how did he get here, in the middle of this vast sanctuary? Howard gently placed Ben on a chair, preparing him a simple meal. Meanwhile, he checked the security cameras along the sanctuary's boundary, hoping to find some clues. As the slow-motion footage played on the screen, Howard's heart sank. An old car appeared in the frame, stopping just outside the sanctuary's fence. A young woman stepped out of the car, carrying Ben in her arms. She looked around, looking worried and hurried. After discovering a weak spot in the fence, she tried to push the boy through it, placing him on the dirt road Howard had found. Howard was stunned as she bent down and kissed the boy gently on the forehead, her eyes filled with pain and helplessness. Then she returned to the car without looking back and drove away. Ben stood there, staring blankly after the car, his eyes glued to it, as if begging his parents to come back. But the car disappeared, leaving the boy alone in the vast reserve. Howard couldn't understand. The woman's kiss didn't look like the action of someone who had coldly abandoned her child. It was a kiss filled with love and regret. But why? Why did she choose to leave her child in such a dangerous place? Did she believe that the reserve was the only place that could protect him? Or was it the last desperate act of a mother with no other choice? Howard felt a deep sadness creep into his heart. He looked at Ben, who was gnawing on a small piece of bread, his eyes still filled with fear, but also a twinkle of trust. Howard wondered if the mother believed that someone would be kind and brave enough to find the boy. And if so, could he be that person? The more Howard thought about it, the more it became clear to him that Ben had been brought here by more than mere coincidence. Perhaps fate had chosen him, just as it had chosen him to save Leo all those years ago. Between the boy, his desperate mother, and the sanctuary where life was reborn, there was perhaps a connection that Howard needed to unravel. He took a deep breath, looked at the boy, and dialed the authorities. But deep in his heart, Howard knew that this boy was more than a puzzle. He was a piece of a larger story, one he didn't fully understand, but was ready to be a part of. The story of Howard, Leo, and Ben is not only an emotional journey, but also a powerful reminder of the value of love and compassion. Sometimes, we don't realize how wonderfully connected we are to this world until fate allows us to give love. Leo, a rescued lion, becomes a guardian to a lost boy, a way to repay the life he once received. Howard, who is dedicated to conservation, goes above and beyond to become a father to a stranger. That's the magic of compassion. It not only changes the lives of others, but it also transforms us into the best versions of ourselves. Life sometimes challenges us with unexpected situations, but it is in those moments that we have the opportunity to choose how to act. Will we leave a mark of love or pain? The answer, like this story, is always in our hearts. We want to send our sincere thanks to you, the wonderful audience who have accompanied us to listen to this story. You are the driving force for stories like this to be told and spread. Hopefully, in your life journey, you will find ways to love, protect, and make this world a better place every day. If this story touches your heart, please click like to spread the message of love. Don't hesitate to share with your friends and family to inspire more people. And leave a comment sharing the lesson you learned, or an inspirational quote like, "Live to love, because every small action has the power to change the world." Thank you for taking the time to listen. Always believe that love is not just a choice, but the most wonderful thing we can give to each other.